Tonight, Supreme Court gives finality to the governorship flag-bearer contest of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, affirms former CBN Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo as the party's candidate in Anambra State. Nigerian military confirms death of leader of the Islamic State of West Africa province, Abu Musab al-Banawi. Chief of Defense Staff says he is dead and remains dead. Operatives of the police anti-kidnapping unit in Adamawa State arrest 4 persons who allegedly kidnapped mother and daughter in Yola. And 6 people have been killed and 32 others injured amid gunfire in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Plus international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, Central Bank issues guidelines on disposal of non-permissible income for non-interest financial institutions.
And on sports news tonight, Barcelona's teenage midfielder Pedri agrees a new contract until 2026, including a release clause of €1 billion.
And from Abuja, People's Democratic Party Northern Caucus agrees to present former Senate President Iyorchia Ayu as consensus candidate for the position of National Chairman.
The coast is now clear for the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, to contest the Anambra State governorship seat in the November 6th poll. In a unanimous decision by a 5-man panel of justices, the court upheld the judgment of the Court of Appeal Kano State Division, which validated the primary election that produced Professor Soludo. Here's a timeline of the legal battle, which followed Soludo's emergence as APGA candidate for Anambra governorship election on June the 23rd. Well, following the decision by the Judo KK faction of APGA to challenge the leadership of Victor Oye as APGA chairman, the Jigawa High Court, June 30th, ruled in his favor, recognizing a parallel primary election conducted by the Judo KK faction. But the Jigawa High Court judgment was on August the 5th, set aside by the appeal court in Kano. And not satisfied, the Judo KK-led faction proceeded to the Supreme Court, which today upheld the Kano appeal court judgment, affirming Victor Oye as APGA national chairman.
It's respite for the candidate of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, in the November 6 governorship election in Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, following the Supreme Court's declaration of Mr. Victor Oye as the authentic national chairman of the party. Professor Soludo had emerged as the candidate for the forthcoming governorship election in Anambra State under APGA, with Victor Oye as its national chairman. But a faction of APGA, led by Judo KK, challenged the authenticity of the Oye-led leadership at a federal high court in Jigawa State, where the judgment was given in his favor. However, the Jigawa judgment was set aside by the appeal court, Kano Division, prompting the Judo KK faction to proceed to the Apex Court to nullify that decision. In a unanimous judgment by a panel of justices led by Justice Mary Odili, the Supreme Court held that the internal issue of political parties is outside the jurisdiction of courts, and consequently upheld the judgment of the Court of Appeal, Kano, which resolved the leadership tussle in APGA in favor of Victor Oye.
Having sustained the decision of the Court of Appeal to the effect that it amounted to forum shopping for any of the parties to proceed outside the territories of Anambra State or even Imo State, where the party's situation took place, all the way to Jigawa State, and then to get a judge in Jigawa to make pronouncements on who should be the governorship candidate in Anambra State is totally crass, to borrow the language of the court.
The panel also berated the lawyers to Jude Okeke for engaging in what it described as unethical conduct by filing such a suit in the first place. They also blamed the Jigawa State High Court for accepting to hear the suit, which was out of its jurisdiction. The panel
and still on the governorship election in Anambra State, more than 34,000 police personnel will be deployed to the state for the polls. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, disclosed this while meeting with commissioners of various states and heads of formations in Abuja. He says 3 helicopters and other equipment will also be deployed for surveillance during the election. According to him, the police is collaborating with sister agencies and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure the conduct of a peaceful election in the state. Away from the Anambra election, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, has confirmed that ISWAP West Africa leader Abu Musab al-Banawi is dead. The CDS made the disclosure today during the weekly ministerial briefing at the State House, Abuja. He explains that there is a variation in the levels of insecurity from one region to another, which explains the different approaches in operation.
The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, is the latest guest at the ministerial media briefing at the State House, illuminating the successes recorded in recent times owing to additional hardware procurements. General Irabo debunks claims that the military operations in the southeast is discriminatory.
The distinct characteristics of these insecurity issues, they are there. So what you find in the southeast is not the same thing as what you find in the northwest, or even the northeast, or even in north central. And you know that I have been a part of those who have been engaging with key leaders in the southeast who have had those engagements.
By the same token, he confirms the death of the head of the Islamic State West Africa province, Abu Musab al-Banawi.
I can authoritatively confirm to you that al-Banawi is dead. As simple as that.
Revealing that the military took delivery of the final batch of 6 A-29 Super Tucano aircraft on the 28th of September to complete the 12 procured, the military chief appealed to Nigerians not to resort to violence or crime in conveying their grievances about the government, warning that no one should test the resolve of the armed forces.
Anyone thinks that he can try the shape and form of the armed forces, then of course let him engage in any form of criminality.
He maintains that the procurement of military hardware should be sustained for the nation to have peace, and described the communication blackout in parts of the northwest as a blessing to the fight against insurgency.
And still on the fight against insurgency, the Defense Headquarters has confirmed that over 13,000 suspected terrorists have surrendered to troops operating in the northeast within the last 2 weeks. Providing an update on the military operations across the country, the Acting Director, Defense Media Operations, Brigadier General Bernard Onyuko, adds that the figure includes some members of the families of the suspects, including women and children. He also adds that 29 suspected terrorists were killed within the period, while 13 others were arrested.
Troops of this operation have sustained aggressive posture with vigor in the northeast, which yielded significant results. The series of land and air operations conducted in different locations across the northeast theater have reduced operational capabilities of the insurgents. Within the period under review, several terrorist elements were neutralized and several others arrested alongside their informants and logistics suppliers. Consequently, more terrorists have continued to lay down their arms and surrender to own troops with the families, as they could no longer withstand the offensive operations within the theater. Some of these fates were recorded at Goza, Yantake, Bita Road, Goza Farm Center, Yamteke Road, Mandara Mountain area, as well as Pulka and Hamburger towns, all in Borno State. Cumulatively, within the period, a total of 29 terrorists were neutralized, 13 terrorists, including their informants and logistics suppliers, were arrested in the course of these operations. Additionally, a total of 38 assorted weapons, 968 rounds of different kinds of ammunition, as well as 48 roasted animals were recovered.
Meanwhile, operatives of the anti-kidnapping unit of the Adamawa State Police Command have arrested 4 suspected kidnappers who allegedly abducted Hawa Umaru and her daughter in Ngurore, Yola South local government area. According to a statement issued by the PPRO, DSP Sulaiman Ngudroje, the police also recovered 1 AK-47 rifle with 16 rounds of live ammunition from the suspects. He further stated that the suspects confessed during investigation to have abducted Hawa Umaru and her daughter and equally attacked the divisional police headquarters there. The arrest follows the nabbing of Babangida, one of the principal suspects in the kidnap operation, who revealed how they abducted Hawa and her daughter, one Alhaji Bahago of Ibare, and attacked Ngurore police station last Sunday. Still on security, 3 kidnapped students of Christ the King Major Seminary in Kaduna State have been released. The Chancellor at the Catholic Diocese of Kafanchan, Reverend Father Emmanuel Okolo, says the 3 seminarians were released by their abductors yesterday. These students were abducted by bandits from the chapel at Christ the King Major Seminary on Monday, October the 11th. While thanking God for their freedom, Father Okolo also prayed for the release of other victims in captivity. And in a bid to make schools safer, the Zamfara state government says it has concluded plans with the security agencies to deploy some operatives to schools to protect students and teachers across the state. Governor Bello Matawale made this known while hosting students who paid him a courtesy visit in his office as part of activities marking International Day of the Girl Child. And away from security matters, the President has issued a directive to ministries, departments and agencies to prioritize indigenous professionals in planning, design and execution of national projects. President Buhari gave the directive when he met with and inaugurated the Presidential Monitoring and Evaluation Council for the full implementation of Executive Order 5 at the State House, Abuja. According to the President, all professionals must be duly registered with the relevant regulatory bodies, while foreign professionals must be deprioritized, except where the needed expertise is unavailable locally. Our State House correspondent, Gloria Mezoke, reports.
In a bid to overturn the status quo and fulfill a promise to reposition Nigeria's professionals and manufacturers at the center of the Nigerian economy, the President meets with the Presidential Monitoring and Evaluation Council for the full implementation of the Executive Order 5 at the State House. He made no bones about displacing foreign professionals with local expertise in the execution of national projects.
The MDAs shall engage indigenous professionals in the planning, design, and execution of national projects. Consideration shall only be given to foreign professionals where it is certified by the appropriate authority that such expertise is not available in Nigeria.
The team has been asked by the President, who doubles as chairman of the council, to oversee the general implementation of the executive order, which is expected to improve indigenous capacity.
If we want to build any power plant in the country, again, today, we bring in foreigners. Our dams, the same. Mr. President, no nation can ever develop in doing this.
In a separate meeting with a delegation from the Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria, the President was conferred as the grand patron of the insurance. He admonishes insurance companies in the country to improve her efficiency.
I want to urge you to further increase the number of Nigerians and businesses that would benefit from and be benefited by the insurance industry.
The president also met with the head of the United Nations Development Programme Regional Bureau for Africa. The rehabilitation of internally displaced persons, youthful engagement as well as technology was central in discussions.
I decided that we were going to shift the lens through which we look at Africa from a problem lens to an opportunity lens, a promise lens.
The president reaffirms that his administration is doing its best to rehabilitate internally displaced persons in spite of nominal resources, expressing hope that normalcy will return to the lives of millions of Nigerians currently affected by the Northeast crisis. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
In part two, after the break, Ekiti state government holds maiden economic summit. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo wants states to act as sovereign economies. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder about top stories. Supreme Court affirms former CBN Governor Professor Chukwuma Soludo as governorship candidate of All Progressives Grand Alliance in Anambra State. Nigerian military confirms death of leader of Islamic State of West African province, Abu Musab al-Banawi. Operatives of anti-kidnapping police unit in Adamawa State arrest 4 suspected kidnappers over the abduction of mother and daughter in Yola. And 6 people have been killed and 32 others injured amid gunfire in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. Ekiti State held its maiden Economic Development and Investment Summit to showcase the economic opportunities in the state. The Fountain Summit, as it is called, had in attendance the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the host governor, Kayode Fayemi, as well as his counterparts from Edo, Lagos and Kaduna, amongst other political and business leaders who converged on Ado-Ekiti, the state capital. The Vice President highlighted the need for states to start thinking like sovereign economies to maximize their potential, while Governor Kayode Fayemi reeled out the state's effort to promote investment.
The dependence of Ekiti State.
It's a gathering of political and business leaders, including the Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, as well as governors of Lagos, Edo, Kaduna, amongst other dignitaries, who have come to share their ideas and learn as Ekiti kicks off its Fountain Summit series to showcase investment opportunities in the state. The host governor and chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, highlights the state's effort to attract investors, calling for collaboration to drive growth.
Our solution to reduce the dependence of Ekiti State on federally distributed revenues is to enable private enterprise by making the state an attractive destination for investors. Our efforts have started to yield results, with the Kunderi farm, moribund for over 40 years, now operational and producing over 80,000 liters of milk per month.
The keynote speaker, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, challenged subnationals to start thinking like sovereign states by exploring areas of competitive advantage and robust investment in a knowledge-based economy.
There has to be a collective change of mind, a collective change of mindset. Thinking differently. There is a need for a subnational to think like a sovereign state. You have a bigger GDP and even more revenues than many nations. And I think you are in the flow of progress with the planned establishment of the Technology Special Economic Zone. Clearly, the future of fast-growing economies is in the knowledge economy.
At a panel discussion, Governor Sanwo-Olu explains how Lagos has been able to sustain its economy. He also delves into the issue of state police, a point his colleagues from Edo, Kaduna and Ekiti all agree with.
One point that we should not drop eye on, which I'm sure everybody knows about, is issue around the state police, right? We've all talked about it. Mr. Vice President is here. He knows what each and every one of us feels, about this, and we should not let this opportunity slip by again.
Governor Sanwo-Olu has spoken the mind of governors collectively that we need multi-level policing arrangements.
we will not be able to run away from the fact that states will now have to play a much more role in the entire value chain for security.
My colleagues have articulated it correctly, yes. And the APC True Federalism Committee has made the case that we need multi-level policing, not just state police, even local government police.
The Vice President will not talk about the issue of state police at this forum, even though at previous fora he agrees there's need for constitutional amendment to address the lapses in the Constitution, but he talks about economic viability of states.
So where a state has shown that it can perform in a particular sector, then we support that and give whatever we can to support it. And this is crucial because it also means that we'll generate more revenues for everyone to the pool.
As Nigeria gradually recovers from the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, conversations of this nature are expected to translate into action plans that will increase the economic viability of the states.
In the meantime, the Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, took advantage of the summit to explain how he was willing to sacrifice his second-term ambition to give the children of the state quality education. Speaking during the Ekiti State Fountain Summit, the governor made it clear that teachers in the state must get tested, notwithstanding the threat by the teachers' union. Let's head off to Abuja studios, where Terry Kumi is standing by with more stories. Hi, Terry.
Hello, Millicent. Former Senate President Senator Iyorchia Ayu has emerged as the consensus chairmanship candidate for the North in the forthcoming elective convention of the People's Democratic Party. The governor of Adamawa State, Amadu Fintiri, announced the decision of the PDP Northern Consensus Committee in Abuja today. And according to him, the decision was reached after contestants from the three geopolitical zones in the north agreed to step down for Senator Ayu in the interest of the party.
Out of the three northern candidates that all the three zones produce, the candidates themselves, in the spirit of unity and togetherness, in the spirit of ensuring that PDP emerges and benefit from our effort so that we can win together for Nigerians the 2023 election. Distinguished Senator Iyorchia Ayu has emerged as the consensus candidate of the North. And with this, we are fully prepared, we are ready. We will be talking to our colleagues in other parts of the country, particularly the South, that they see reason for this consensus candidate and give us support during the 30th and 31st convention of PDP.
To the National Assembly now, where the 2022 appropriation bill has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives, 24 hours after it did same in the Senate. During the debate, lawmakers in the lower chamber raised concerns about how the budget would impact on infrastructure development. The bill will now be subjected to budget defense by various committees of both chambers. It's the second allotted day for budget defense in the House of Representatives. The lawmakers are concerned about the expected impact of the proposed Growth and Sustainable Development Budget.
Mr. Speaker, you've seen the debt service ratio of about 3.9 billion to a country of over 200 million. The balance of the budget is not enough to engineer economic activity for Nigerians.
If you have to do something to the economy of this country, in terms of the informal and informal sector, if you don't have good roads, there's nothing we can do about it.
A situation where agencies within governments, as in departments within the governments, are still owing the government billions of naira. And you ask them what is responsible for this kind of huge debt within the system, and they cannot explain.
The debate goes beyond the general principles of the bill as one lawmaker questions the activities of the central bank.
Today, the CBN is either a bank of industry, or it's a bank of agriculture, or it has become a bank of education. It has no longer become the banker's bank. CBN is now involved in doing what education should be doing, what Ministry of Agri should be doing, what Ministry of Employment and Productivity is supposed to be doing. We must streamline this and become very, very disciplined with our budget process.
The 2022 appropriation bill scales second reading, even as lawmakers expressed dissatisfaction with the proposed 134 billion naira budgetary provision for the National Assembly. Meanwhile, at a meeting of the Appropriations Committee, the chairman charges members on thoroughness and gives a timeline for the passage of the budget.
In our timetable, we are proposing to lay the budget by 14th of December. We will lay on the 14th. We consider it on the 15th.
Various committees of the National Assembly now have 2 weeks to complete the budget defense process. Meanwhile, the lawmakers have passed 2 bills to establish the North Central and Northwest Development Commissions. The commissions are charged with the responsibilities to receive and manage funds from allocation of the Federation account for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of roads, houses, and other infrastructural damages suffered by the regions as a result of the effects of the communal crisis, as well as tackle the ecological problems and tackling the menace of poverty. This comes after 2 related bills to establish development commissions in the Southwest and Southeast were passed in the Green Chamber. When the news at 10 returns, Channels Television Media Group awarded for its contribution to diaspora broadcasting at the 6th edition of the London Political Summit and Awards. Join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Channels Television has yet again added another feather to its cap. This time it's an award for its contribution to diaspora broadcasting at the 6th edition of the London Political Summit and Awards. The award was received on behalf of the station by Channels TV London correspondent Juliana Olayinka. Simon Pusey has more.
The Channels TV Media Group has been awarded Best Global Diaspora TV Station at the 6th London Political Summit and Awards. The event, which took place earlier today at the Islington Town Hall, was attended by a small number of distinguished guests to ensure the organisers adhered to strict COVID restrictions. Taking place under the theme Sustainable Development and Good Governance in an Era of Post-Pandemic and Economic Recovery, the awards conveners Dr. Pauline Long and Mr. Godson Azu expressed the importance of peaceful political dialogue on the continent and thanked those being recognised at the event for their tireless commitment to ensuring a positive narrative of Africa was at the front and centre of global discourse. Other recipients at the event included His Royal Highness Dr. Olusegun Aderemi, His Royal Majesty Olufarin Olukayode Ogunsanwo, Councillor Michael Desmond, Speaker of Hackney Council, Sir Sonny Iroche, former Mayor of Hackney Susan Fajana Thomas, as well as Channels TV's London correspondent Juliana Olayinka. Other notable figures in British society were also appreciated for their services. Simon Pusey, reporting for Channels TV News, London.
I guess it's safe to say congratulations are in order. Well, that's all from the Federal Capital Territory. Millicent has more from Lagos.
You're quite right, Terry. Congratulations. The former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard, and the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, are billed to make delivery keynote addresses alongside other leaders across the world when the 2021 Annual Conference of Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WIMBIZ, commences. This was revealed at a media event to unveil activities lined up for the conference and a week-long celebration to commemorate WIMBIZ's 20 years contribution to elevating the status of women in Nigeria and Africa.
Since 2001, the WIMBIZ conference has assumed a platform for thousands of women in business and leadership to deliberate on a broad range of issues that concern women in the business, corporate, public and development sectors. This press conference is to herald the 20th edition of the annual meeting. The chairperson and some members of WIMBIZ Executive Council and heads of committees have more to say about what WIMBIZ stands for, the theme and significance of the conference, as well as highlights of activities during the two-day event.
The theme of this year's conference is celebrating legacy. It's been an awesome 20 years of impact, an awesome 20 years of legacy. And we want to start, the conference off by really reflecting and celebrating on that. And we will be having a series of events around the conference to celebrate the legacy that we talked about.
And we have a lineup of speakers, a lot of topics, some around making your first billion on the continent. You want to know what it's about? Please join us online. Healthy, wealthy me, vibrant me, and also things on embracing risks and so on and so forth.
Attendance at this year's conference is both physical and virtual. WIMBIZ has also put in place a range of pre-conference events, including Legend Ball, golf tournament, art and fashion exhibition, and the Big Sister mentorship program.
It's a program that we use to inspire, to empower, and to connect with teenage girls who are on the verge of leaving secondary school into the world at large. So this year, our plan is to mentor 3,000 girls across 6 cities. And the cities are Abuja, Bonny, Port Harcourt, Uyo, Lagos, and Ibadan.
With the introduction of WIMBIZ app, the opportunity for participation is vast. Delegates will be able to access the conference easily.
We have the WIMBIZ app, which will be used for the conference. All of our virtual delegates will be able to access the conference and just feel like they are just right there in the room.
The 20th Women in Management, Business and Public Service WIMBIZ conference is scheduled to hold on November the 4th and the 5th.
Into some business news now. Here's Teniola Shubowale.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. The central bank has issued its guidelines on the disposal on non-permissible income in efforts to standardize its treatment and disposal by non-interest financial institutions in the country. Part of the statement released by the CBN and addressed to all non-interest financial institutions mentions that the NPI shall be put in a dedicated account and shall not be mingled with the funds of non-interest banks. It also mentioned that NPI is not an object of ownership of the non-interest banks and does not confer any ownership rights on it. Non-permissible income is any income that accrues to non-interest finance institutions, such as interest income, penalties for delayed payment, or of debt obligations, or any income declared by the ACE of the institution. The International Monetary Fund has reasserted that the IMF researchers do not play politics with their work, following reports that its current managing director may have improperly applied pressure to change findings in a key report while overseeing it at the World Bank. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva received full and unanimous support by the Executive Board on Monday night, exonerating her of any wrongdoing. While answering questions regarding the integrity of IMF data at the ongoing IMF World Bank meeting, IMF's chief economist, Geeta Gopinath, maintains that data integrity is paramount to the institution. And now, Anambra State Governor Willie Obiano has presented to the Anambra State House of Assembly the appropriation bill of 141.97 billion naira for the 2022 fiscal year. Governor Obiano, who notes that the budget estimate presentation will be the last in his administration, which will be rounded off on March the 17th next year, mentioned that the budget is based on realistic projections of all sources of revenue, both external and internal, taking into consideration the state's revenue and expenditure trend.
For the 2022 fiscal year, we are proposing a budget size of 141 16.9 billion naira. This budget is based on realistic projections on all sources of revenue, both external and internal, taking into consideration the state's revenue and expenditure trend. While recurrent expenditure is projected to go up 43% of the total budget size, translating to 60.9 billion, the remaining 57%, which translates to 81 billion, is for capital expenditure. This is expected to drive the 2022 budget theme of continuity, sustainability, and development of New Anambra. This budget will be geared towards sustaining our past performance over the last 7 years and ensure that we maintain our status as a hub for business and a destination for new investments.
Nigerian Exchange Limited has announced the resignation of Oscar Onyema as non-executive director of the company. The resignation, which takes immediate effect, comes on the back of the imminent listing of Nigerian Exchange Group PLC, where he serves as the Group Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer on the main board of the company. The Chief Executive Officer of NGX Limited, Timi Pupola, mentioned that the NGX owes its solid foundation to the effort of leaders like Mr. Onyema, who worked tirelessly to build the capital market infrastructure. He also mentioned that NGX Group will host its chairman, Abimbola Ogunbajo, and Mr. Onyema, as well as other key stakeholders, to a virtual closing gong ceremony tomorrow to commemorate the listing of NGX Group. And talking about the NGX, it's still recording a positive trend with an additional 44.06 billion naira added to the total value of listed equities. Will Ibong tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. The stock market has been on fire since last week. More than 900 million units of shares traded today, worth over 10 billion naira. We saw a knee-jerk reaction in the benchmark performance index as it rose higher by 0.19% from its intraday gain of 0.07%. About 41 billion naira was added to the value of listed equities, a bit below the 81 billion naira recorded yesterday, but still enough to keep investors smiling. You know, these stocks, they do go up in a straight line, or they could go down twice as fast. Also, magic is still in the air for First Bank. Within 7 trading sessions, the stock price has gone up from 7 naira to almost 12 naira, topping today's trade and soaring to record highs. Traders say bulls don't just go up all the time. They have to take a rest before they charge. But we hope that this bull holds out for a bit longer. And that's the Stock Market Report. And Willie Bung is back to you.
Thanks a lot, Will. Well, global stock markets are not left out in the positive sentiments as investors digest latest earnings report, which came in better than expected. Let's take a look at their closing numbers. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks, Teniola. And Nigeria has received half of 3.5 million doses of the Pfizer COVID vaccine donated by the United States through the COVAX facility. The shipment arrived at the Anambra International Airport in Abuja today, bringing to more than 7.5 million the number of U.S. bilaterally donated COVID vaccine doses to the country. A statement from the U.S. mission explains that the U.S. also contributed to the first multilateral donation of the AstraZeneca vaccine in March this year. It says overall, COVAX has provided Nigeria with over 10 million vaccine doses till date. And the Lebanese army says it has arrested 9 people after gunfire erupted in Beirut, leaving at least 6 people dead and many others injured. Soldiers were deployed on the streets to contain the violence as an undeclared truce brought calm to the Lebanese capital after nearly 5 hours of heavy gunfire. Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. At least 6 people have been killed and 32 others injured by gunfire in the Lebanese capital Beirut during a protest against the judge investigating last year's devastating port explosion. Eyewitnesses filmed the sporadic gunfire which wounded several others near the Palace of Justice. People rushed to help the injured, while many residents fled the area completely. Huge tension surrounds the probe into the port blast, with Hezbollah accusing the judge of unfairly singling out allied former government ministers. Earlier, a court dismissed a legal complaint brought by 2 of the 5 politicians who Judge Bittar has sought to question on suspicion of negligence. A man arrested over a deadly bow and arrow attack in Norway had converted to Islam, and there were fears he had been radicalised. The 37-year-old Danish citizen is accused of killing 4 women and a man on Wednesday night in the southern town of Kongsberg. He was arrested and questioned for several hours overnight. The regional police chief said officers had last been in touch with the man in 2020. The attack was Norway's deadliest since the far-right extremist Anders Breivik murdered 77 people, most of them teenagers, on the island of Utøya in July 2011. At least 46 people have been killed and dozens more seriously injured in a fire at a 13-story tower block in southern Taiwan. A residential and commercial building in the city of Kaohsiung. It took firefighters more than 4 hours to extinguish the blaze. Fire departments say that 79 people had been taken to hospital, including 14 in a serious condition. The cause of the fire is unclear, and investigators are at the scene. A man who confessed to killing more than 10 children in Kenya has escaped from police cells in Nairobi. Masten Wanjala was due to appear in court on Wednesday over the murders of at least 14 boys in the capital and areas of eastern and western Kenya. Police say they noticed he had disappeared during the morning roll call. The trial of 4 senior members of Egypt's security services has started in their absence, with the quartet facing charges over their alleged role in the disappearance and murder of a student in Cairo. Giulio Regini was a student at Cambridge University but disappeared in the Egyptian capital in January 2016. His body was found almost a week later, and a post-mortem examination showed he had been extensively tortured before his death. Italy hopes the trial will shed light on the killing that shocked the country and strained ties with Egypt, which has repeatedly denied that its officials had anything to do with the death. The Alisal fire has continued to intensify as it spreads along California's southern coast. The fire began on Monday and has scorched more than 15,000 acres. Local authorities report that it is 5% contained. So far, 1,300 crews have been called to battle the blaze. The origin of the fire remains under investigation. Prince William has taken a thinly veiled swipe at the billionaires in the space tourism race, saying the focus should be on solving problems facing the Earth.
We need some of the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet, not trying to find the next place to go and live.
During the interview, William appeared to criticise Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and Briton Richard Branson, whose rival ventures are all vying to usher in a new era of private commercial space travel. His comments come after Musk has spoken about missions to Mars, and Bezos described his inaugural space flight in July as part of building a road to space.
You know, we are seeing a rise in climate anxiety. You know, young people now are growing up where their futures are basically being threatened the whole time. It's very unnerving, and it's very, you know, anxiety making. I think that my father's sort of progressed that on and talked about climate change a lot more very early on, before anyone else thought it was a topic. So yes, he's had a really rough ride on that, and I think, you know, he's been proven to have been well ahead of the curve, well beyond his time in warning about some of these dangers.
And finally, the Queen has commended the spirit of the Welsh people during the pandemic as she officially opened the 6th term of the Senedd. In her first visit to Wales in 5 years, she told the Welsh Parliament everyone owes a debt of gratitude to those who have served their communities. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Let's now switch to sports news. Here's Kaide Layade.
Thank you, Millicent. Welcome to Sports News. The Ministry of Youth and Sports Development has rewarded Nigeria's team that participated at the 2021 World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Nairobi, Kenya. The minister, Sunday Dare, gave the sum of 3.4 million naira to the athletes as a way of appreciating them for their effort at the championships. The minister urged the athletes to continue to project the image of the country positively while shunning performance-enhancing drugs. Nigeria finished third on the medals table with 4 gold and 3 bronze medals. And French President Emmanuel Macron earlier today visited the construction site for the 2024 Olympic Village at a suburb north of Paris. The 31-building project, spread over 44 hectares, is touted as sustainable, seeking to use 94% recycled materials and to reduce carbon emissions by 50% compared to the present. The village will host 15,000 athletes in the 2024 Summer Games. An American track and field athlete, Allyson Felix, says she is proud of fellow sports stars speaking out on mental health issues, although more has to be done to support the athletes. The 35-year-old is now the most decorated female track and field athlete of all time at the Olympics, and no American has won more than her 11 medals, which included a gold and a bronze in Tokyo.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's just a special time for women in sports and using our voice. I was so proud of Naomi and Simone for bringing this conversation to the forefront and getting people to think about the way that we view athletes, and that we are human, and that, you know, we all have struggles. And I think we just have to support each other better and holistically.
That will be all on Sports News. Back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Kaide. And the main news again. The Supreme Court today affirmed Professor Chukwuma Soludo as candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance in Anambra State, ending months of disputes within the party. Also today, Nigerian military confirmed the death of leader of the Islamic State of West Africa province, ISWAP, Abu Musab al-Banawi. That's your news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Have a good night and stay safe.